Hi folks, welcome back to my channel, the 10 Words Show. So in today's video, we will discuss about the ongoing crisis that is Ukraine and Russian crisis. So why Russia is invading Ukraine and a brief history of that. So I hope you will enjoy. Ukraine and Russia crisis in a very nutshell. So there's a lot of history between Ukraine and Russia, and most of it has to do with the Soviet Union. So let's take one step back and let's first understand the history. So the Soviet Union, or the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, has played a very important role in 20th century world history. Since its creation in 1922, the Soviet Union has been at the center of world affairs, and the Soviet Union rose to power in 1920s to 1930s, and during the Second World War, it was an allied power and helped defeat Nazi Germany. And immediately after Second World War, the United States and the Soviet Union began to see things very differently, and the former allies disagreed over how European nations should be reconfigured. And the Soviet Union wanted Eastern European to be composed of a communist countries, whereas the United States wanted these countries to be a democratic. And gradually the Cold War started from this issue. The Cold War was a prolonged a period of tension between the United States and the Soviet Union, and it lasted roughly a half a century. The term Cold War is used because there was no such large scale fighting directly between the two superpowers, but they each supported a major regional conflict known as the proxy wars. The conflict was based around the ideological and geopolitical struggle for a global influence by these two powers. And on 1991, a Soviet Union collapsed into 15 independent countries, including neighboring Russia and Ukraine. And by the way, they both, Ukraine and Russia, shared a very long borders, and Ukraine is the second largest European nation after Russia, with the populations of 44 million people. So this is the brief history of both the country, and now let's move to the current scenario. What's happening between Ukraine and Russia, and it has also a lot to do with the NATO. NATO stands for a North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and it was founded in 1949 with the 12 member countries from North America and Europe. And the aim of forming NATO was to curb the Soviet Union expansion in late 1950s and in Europe. And currently it has 30 members countries, including United States, Canada, United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, etc. And one thing to note is that NATO has a common security policy. So what it means is that if one NATO member is attacked, it is considered as an attack on all NATO members, and they band together against the attack and stands together against that country. So, for the last 14 years, Ukraine has been officially trying to join NATO. But of course, yeah, Russia has been against it for a very long time. And in an interview, Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has said that America is at our doorstep with a missile. How will America feel if the missiles are deployed at Canada or Mexico borders? Asked the Russian president in 2011. And basically, what Russia want is that Russia don't want Ukraine to join NATO, effectively, growing closer to the Western powers. And yeah, NATO was considered as a Western, so Russia don't want Ukraine to be a part of a Western. And in fact, Russia had earlier demanded a guarantee from the West that NATO will limit its presence in Eastern Europe, and specifically demanded that NATO membership not be given to Ukraine to lower the tension around borders. And of course, these demands were not accepted, and as a result, estimated says around 150,000 people, Russian troops has been deployed in and around Ukraine currently. And as of 24th of February, Russia has now officially invaded Ukraine with reports, videos, and image of the Ukraine capital Kyiv, including the Ukraine international airports being hit by a blast. And there are social media posts of Ukraine, when men, women, children scrambling to gain a safety, and recorded an estimate of a 137 death on first day of invasion, and at least 100,000 people displaced. The entire situation has its own repercussions, and not just for NATO and the European Union, but for us as well, not just a political but also from an economic perspective as well, because Russia is a goods powerhouse and Europe gets nearly 40% of a natural gas from Russia, and this can potentially put an immense pressure on the global economy, as we can see right now on in India, that the oil prices are extremely growing, going up, and are at an all-time high from since 2008. And the Russian currency rumble is also facing its the very very low since very long. So, and many sanction has been announced by not just United States, but also by an Australian, Japan, and all. So now the real question is, what will happen to the 44 million people of Ukraine? So that is pretty much a brief explanation. So, and I have my opinion on that. So I want to share my opinion on that. What I think is that Russia and Ukraine, right? So Ukraine wants to join NATO, and Russia is completely against it because NATO is largely influenced by the United States, and Russia and United States has a very long diplomatic controversial from a very long time, and still it is. So that is why Russia fears that any further controversial with US in future will a missile from Ukraine, as Russia and Ukraine has a common borders, because Ukraine will be, of course, forced to launch the missile as after being a part of a NATO, and they stand as they have a common security policy. Why Russia don't want Ukraine to be a part of a NATO. So that's why Russia was against it. So what is wrong with the United States is that United States wants to be the number one in the entire planet. United States wants to control the world. They don't want any other economy or a country to be a global economy and just challenge them. So that is what exactly happens with China as well. Back then, when China was booming, China was growing. The economy was growing very well. So United States felt that as a threat. So they have, in order to slow down the economy, they have boycotted and they have sanctioned many economic deal with the with the China. And so right now they might felt like Russia as a threat, so they are doing the same with them as well. So what United States stands with is that they want themselves to be the superpower, that they don't want any competitors for them. So that's why United States are against Russia. So now let's talk about the India's decision on the United Nations on the crisis. What India has taken decision was taking a neutral stance, right? So I think that's a completely a very good decision by the Prime Minister Modi, because if you see long back from the history that Russia and India has a very good relationship in terms of like the armed forces, like exchanging, and in economic as well, the oil and all. They have a very good relationship, right? So that's why, and they don't want to ruin, of course, right? So it's a very good decision. And in geopolitics, there's no enemy or there's no friends. It's all about our own economic interest. Sometimes our enemy becomes our friend, or our friend becomes enemy. So this is how geopolitics work. So thanks for watching, and I hope you all have gained some knowledge. So thank you, and I'll be coming up with the more exciting videos, so stay tuned.